After a decade of coming short year after year, Matthew Stafford is now in the Super Bowl on a brand new team in LA. So how did we get here?
Space for these guys to cover in the back end.
Stafford to the end zone, jump ball, it is caught, Van Jefferson!
Straight out of Tampa, Florida, and then Dunwoody, Georgia, Matthew and his family moved around quite a bit before they took up shop in Dallas. Thankfully for Matt, since Texas is practically the football capital of the States, it was a great fit for what eventually became one of the best recruits in the nation. Although he started off hot at Highland Park under an incredible coach in Randy Allen, not many anticipated just how well he would finish off his time there. Not only did he just lead his team to a perfect record in the state championship, but he was able to pass for over 4,000 yards even though he missed the first 3 games due to a knee injury. Anyways, as you could probably guess, he took the high school football world by storm as he was named a member of the Parade All-American team, dominated at Elite 11, and crazy enough was named the 2005 EA Sports National Player of the Year. I don't know if it gets much better than that, but I guess the fact that he was a 5-star recruit and the #1 pro-style quarterback in his class was the cherry on top. Nonetheless, because of how amazing he was at Highland Park, Matthew had quite a few teams after him, from Ohio State, to Florida, to Michigan, Oklahoma, and just a little school called Georgia. Remember how I said he lived in Dunwoody, Georgia? Well, it just so happens that the reason the family took the trip was because his father was doing graduate school at Georgia University. You can kind of see what I'm getting at here. And to keep up the tradition, and upon that play for a great team out there in the South, Matt committed to be a Bulldog. Usually it takes a bit for even the best high school recruits to earn the starting spot, but in Matt's case, it was from the get-go. In fact, he was the first true freshman to start since '98, and first out of high school since '91. If that doesn't tell you how raw my man was, I really don't know what will. But anyways, going into the year, there were some high expectations on the cat. And unlike his time in high school, it was a bit too much to handle. Although he led Georgia to a 9-4 season, his 13 picks to only 7 touchdowns didn't help as much as he would have wanted, and left many questioning whether his high school career was a fluke. Following such an underwhelming year, you would think Matt would take the backseat to some hotshot freshman the following season. But instead, Georgia put some faith in him, and it paid off.
Timeout on a critical down like this. It's another screen, and it's going to go for a touchdown.
His over 2,500 yards and 19 touchdowns proved that he could perform, and upon that lead Georgia to some wins. Now that he was actually playing his kind of football, Georgia was able to do their thing as they went 11-2, which in fact was their best record in 5 years. Now that he had reestablished himself and the Bulldogs as a contender, going into the 2008 season, there were some pretty high expectations on the stud, as he was a preseason Heisman favorite, and upon that Georgia was #1 in the coaches and AP polls for the first time ever. Although Matt had his best statistical season to date with nearly 3,500 yards and 25 touchdowns, it was definitely not enough to live up to the hype, as they finished 10-3, and as you could probably guess, fell short of any kind of #1 ranking. Instead of running it back once again, Matt felt like he had shown enough by declaring for the 2009 NFL Draft as one of the top recruits in the whole shebang. Crazy enough, although he didn't do anything wild at Georgia, many analysts predicted that he would go #1 overall, and wild enough it actually came to fruition as he joined a floundering Detroit Lions unit, who funny enough negotiated a deal with Matt the day before the draft even happened. Nonetheless, going into Detroit, there was a lot of pressure on Matthew to turn a franchise that had been in the mud for quite a while, and so it was exciting to see what would happen next. Just like at Georgia, Matthew got the starting job from the very beginning, but in this case it wasn't too big a surprise considering how bad Detroit had been. It just so happened that they were 0-16 the year before Matt came in town, in what was one of the most humiliating seasons of all time.
And you can see him, he didn't even know he was out of bounds. Tough situation for a young quarterback.
You gotta think that there was a reason that they had the #1 pick in the first place. But geez, they were awful. Even though they couldn't win a game, they had the potential to do great just based off a certain stud in Megatron.
After all of the heartache, after all of the frustration, after 0-16.
In their 0-win season, Calvin shined with over 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns in only his second year with the Lions. He himself had one of the best college football careers to date, and so it only made sense that him and Stafford would get to know each other pretty dang well. Nonetheless, going into Matt's rookie season, not many expected him to do much, and I guess you could say he lived up to it, with almost an identical year to his first rodeo in Georgia, as he had 7 more picks than touchdowns, and led the team to a 2-8 record when he played. This wasn't no Georgia roster where you could still win football games even when you're not playing the best. Because in Detroit, Matt was going to need to play great in order to do anything. Although he played well in the 3 games he was in the following season, a shoulder surgery put an end to his sophomore year before it really even started, as Detroit went 6-10. Crazy enough, the team won their last 4 games that year, under guys like Drew Stanton and Sean Hill, so it seemed like they had potential to do great things with Matt back the following season.
The big moments.
Again, pocket hold, steps to his right, throws deep left sideline, got Durham out there, he catches it, inside the 30!
Well, his over 5,000 yards and 41 touchdowns were a great sign that he had quite a bit left in the tank. With such a ridiculous stat line, Matt was able to lead the Lions to a 10-6 record and their first postseason appearance in a hot second. Against New Orleans, Matt and Calvin went off with 300 and 200 respectively, but it just wasn't enough to get the dub as they lost by 17. The very fact that the team was there in the first place was a testament to the insane play by not just Matthew, but Megatron as well, who had nearly 1,700 yards and 16 touchdowns in one of the best seasons by a wideout ever. Although Megatron was able to respond the following year with a career season to say the least, Matt's 20 touchdowns to 17 picks put him and the Lions as a whole right back to reality as they went 4-12. To put fire on the wound, they lost their last 7 straight under some underwhelming play by the Georgia product. As you could probably guess, Matt was looking to turn the tides going into 2013, and although he had less yards that year, he was at least able to lead the team to a bit better 7-9 record to at least prove that he had potential to do great things eventually. Even though the team as a whole didn't do amazing, Calvin was on demon timing like always, with nearly 1,500 yards and 12 touchdowns as he kept the Lions from going off the deep end. Following a rough few years in the Motor City, Matthew and the Lions were looking to make their way back to the postseason, and his over 4,200 yards and 22 touchdowns was enough to give Detroit their shot against Dallas. In a wild game, the team came up just short as they lost 24-20 and missed out once again. In a much better 2015 season statistically, Matt was just not able to lead the Lions to any success as they came up short time and time again. Although Megatron was once again on timing with over 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns, it was the last of his time in the Motor City as injuries had prevented him from having a normal life. Now that Matthew lost his main target, it seemed like the Lions were in for a rough 2016 season. But honestly, it wasn't all that bad. Matt once again passed for over 4,000 yards and 20 touchdowns as he led Detroit to a 9-7 record and yet another chance at the postseason. Unlike how it went a few years back against Dallas, the Lions got smacked up by the Legion of Boom as they lost the game before it even started, and as you could guess, came up short once again. Although they replicated their success the following season with another 9-7 year, it was just not enough to get them to the playoffs and seemed to indicate the beginning of the end of Matt's time with the team. After that 9-7 2017 year, the team had 3 straight 4th place seasons as Matthew wasn't able to will the Lions to any success no matter how hard he tried. Year after year, throughout this time, many questioned if Matt would leave, and all the questions were answered following a 5-11 2020 season in the Motor City, as Matt knew it was the end of his time with the Lions, as he told the uppers in Detroit that he had to go. After a bit of shopping around, the Rams were willing to give up not just Jared Goff, but a bunch of picks in order to get the Georgia stud in hopes of a ring. So as you could probably guess, Matt packed his bags and was off to LA after over a decade with the Lions. From the very beginning, you could just tell that there was something different in Los Angeles.
Going for the fake, he's going to air it out. Deep downfield, has a man open, it's caught at the 15-yard line by Van Jefferson.
As Matt established one of the best connections in the league with Cooper Kupp, and the Rams quickly became one of the best teams in football. Keep in mind that they already had studs like Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald on defense. So now that Stafford joined a high-powered offense with Kupp, Woods, and a bunch of others, it seemed like the recipe for success. Matt's nearly 4,900 yards and 41 touchdowns was, as you could guess, enough to lead the Rams to a 12-5 record as they took the division once again. Crazy how Matt went from last place in Detroit to first place in LA within a year, and I think it's a testament to just how good a unit the Rams are from top to bottom. Although they have a ridiculously talented defense, the biggest piece for Matt was the heavily underrated Cooper Kupp. Although he had done pretty dang well before the Georgia product showed up, something was different when Stafford was under center, as he was able to lead the NFL in not just receptions and touchdowns, but yards as well, as he quickly became one of the best wideouts in the league. Now that Matt had one of the most talented teams in football around him, he's able to get his first, second, and third postseason wins as he led the Rams to their first Super Bowl since they got smacked by New England. This time seems a bit different though, since they are coming into this game as not just likely the favorites, but also at home and against a team that has never been there before in Cincinnati. The only thing I think that could stop Matthew from getting his first Super Bowl is a certain stud in Joe Burrow, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Matthew Stafford came up short time and time again during his time in the Motor City, so it's going to be interesting to see what he can do under the bright lights of LA.
Huddle here. Stafford, he's going to air it out. Deep downfield, wide open.
Thanks for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment down below what stuff you want next. But anyways, see you all soon, and peace out.